True leadership isn't just about changing policies, it's about changing lives. Today we sit down with Mr. Vishant Nagvekar. He is a gazetted officer, a champion athlete, and a relentless advocate who has spent 15 years transforming the landscape of accessibility in Goa. From securing fundamental rights in bringing joy to life through wheelchair folk art, his journey proves that no barrier is permanent when faced with an unstoppable spirit. Please welcome a man who shows us that progress is built one courageous wheel at a time. Nice to have you here on Purple Moments.
Thank you.
So looking back at your childhood, tell us some special memory that shaped who you are today.
I could remember my childhood while I was going to school, and my mother used to drop me to the school. That was a government primary school in my village in Mayam. So at that time my mother used to always tell me, like, the education is the pillar for anyone's success, and as a person with disability you have to focus only on education, and you will not able to do any manual work. Okay, so the best part for you would be educating yourself and making a person or a successful person in your life. So according to me, what I am today is because of the lesson that was taught to me by my mother during the school time.
About 15 years ago, what inspired you to start working for rights of persons with disabilities?
Actually, the right-based advocacy which I have started was before the 15 years. I could remember, I found many things like accessibility and inclusion for my own self was not adequate, and which I needed to go to my workplace or to participate or include myself in a public activities, which I found it was not really as per the law. So I started making representations for myself. So secondly, I found that despite being in government job, I used to give many interviews, and the examination centers interview part were not actually accessible, were not made accessible to persons with disability, despite there being reservations in the post. So I found that that something has to be changed, and I started making representations to the government. And earlier I could remember during which time when I used to write, my representation is never used to be even seen by authorities, I suppose, because I did not get any response to that. So that is how I started my advocacy in the form of making representation. I never spoke on this kind of topic publicly or through any media or through anything, no agitations and all, only make representations to the government. And today if I go to see, I make several representation, almost 2-3 per week. Okay. So I could remember last year which I had representation that was made by me reached up to 90 plus. Okay, it was last year. So I keep on doing this, and I find a good result out of it. And I think I would advise people around who see injustice happening around or some discrimination happening around, they should always make a representations to the government.
Unfortunately, many people still see, people with disabilities with pity, So what one change would you wish society to make when they see people with special needs?
Yeah, actually, even today if you go to see, despite there being several awareness created in the society, there are people who still look at persons with disability as in the form of pity. Even when they look at me, despite I being a government officer, Okay, I also find many people even in my office or outside, not mostly in the office, but they look at me very pity, like this poor fellow is coming all the way like home, and they say, in rainy season this person must be finding it very difficulty. Yes, the accessibility is still a long way to go. Even in my office, I would say rainy season makes the place very inaccessible. You won't understand, people without disability will not understand about it, because when this floor becomes slippery, it becomes very difficult for a person like me to walk over it. And that's and the places which appears to be very accessible, during rainy season it becomes inaccessible. And secondly, the PT part comes with the attitudinal barrier, because everybody knows that the places are not accessible, and people with disability are always looked down upon, like they are incapable of doing anything. People with disability are moreover empowered nowadays. They are employed, they are activists, okay, they are officers. Okay, some severe disabilities are still at home, I can understand that part, but all disability cannot be treated in a similar manner with the other persons with disability.
As a student, you were told, why are you studying? Who's going to give you a job? But now, looking back at your journey, you're a government officer and a champion athlete. What would you say to that?
I still remember when my mother was told by many people in the village, like, why you're taking so much efforts in getting him to the school, okay, so let him sit at home and do some activities, like so my mother used to always say, whichever place we can reach, we'll try, but at the same time I need to grow up, I need to move out from this place to be a better person, okay, and that only education would make me better person there. So going back to those memory, after my primary school I came back to Thivim, and I used to be for rest of my life I was in Thivim till the job I got in Panjim, okay. So even during my college time also, some professors also said, however good you might be in your academics, but the problem is who's going to employ you, okay. And they were correct to some extent, because there was no reservation at that time.
You have worked in different government departments and also run your own computer institute. What has these experiences and challenges taught you?
My first government job was social welfare, and it was not at all accessible, okay. So around 9 years I worked there. In actually first portion where it was on the first floor, that time I used to climb the steps and go, but later part I was made to sit on the ground floor, and one counter and all was placed, and that time it was okay. Mostly comparatively it was very accessible to me, at least made for myself only, because I was alone there, person with disability working there. And thereafter I started applying for many jobs. I was rejected many times, and then finally I got a new job, and through which I was transferred from one department to another department. Until last 2 posting I did not find any place accessible. People said there are ramps there are lift in the building, but that does not makes the place accessible at all. Now what was important for me being on the job was, I have to spend around 8 more than 8 hours in the office, so I have to access toilet, washrooms, which were not accessible to me at all. So I found very difficult during those days, during those postings, okay, and somehow I managed all these years, but last 2 postings were quite good.
You have often said that your struggles has made you stronger. Now, was working for disability rights a personal choice, or was it something that you just had to do?
Earlier it was definitely a personal choice, because I fought for myself, okay. Then I found reservations are there, because I used to apply, being in government job I used to apply for many jobs. Reservations are there, But people, whenever I used to clear exam, go for an interview, the interview used to say how you are going to come to the work. Actually, I used to apply only for desk job only. I used to, because I am not fit for any other job, meaning I was not entitled to take engineer job or any other job. But commerce graduate or the post that I applied was desk job. There was no other profile related to job. But despite that, I was rejected for having severe disability. And I suppose during those time, perhaps they must have selected people who had less disabilities than me. There is still a barrier or the attitudinal barrier in the mind of the people, that people with disability are not able to do or perform as a person without disability. A people with disability, given an opportunity, can do any task given to them.
Along with your advocacy work, you also do Goan folk art on your wheelchair. What does that personally mean to you, and how does it help you connect with people?
Folk art and sports, I have started only to get together people with disability. My intention was to get people away from their house and job. Mostly I connected to people who are working in government jobs, or who are working, or who are well off doing well doing in their life, so that they can come for rehearsals, for sports and all that thing. But again, secondly, I also thought this activity is required to empower people, encourage other persons with disability, encourage other people to do these kind of activities, so inspire them, okay, to get into sports. And if you take a sports, for example, people with disability like me, who are mostly sitting in one place, have no activity at all, okay. So for them, a little sports activity per week is, I think, sufficient to keep them physically and mentally healthy and active, okay. So that was the purpose. And another purpose was to develop a leadership. My group has performed even on national and international stages, like International Purple Fest, then Lok Utsav. We had performed for many election related events, okay. And we have performed around 5 to 6 types of folk art, performing folk art on wheelchair, which was thought to be impossible, and we made it possible. We did not play music directly from pen drive, we perform music also, and we dance on the music also, okay. So that at that level we went forward. And another important part of the folk dance activity was Goa government is having one selection trials. It is selection trial for general people in folk dance, and I put an entry on wheelchair, and we got grade B in it, okay. It's grade B is actually state level performer, okay, and through which we got even 2 performances to be done at 2 stages. One was Lok Utsav, and art and culture has given us that opportunity to perform on the stage like Lok Utsav.
And another amazing thing you have done is also you have made election booths accessible in Goa. What was the biggest challenge you faced, and how did it feel when you finally made that happen?
Here again, it was personal approach actually. When I went for, I think that was my first voting when I went, and that place was not accessible to me, and I was wondering, like, if I am given a right to vote, why this place is not accessible to me? How would I go? People are catching here and there and taking me to the booth, and then I am voting in front of them. It doesn't look nice. So I said I need my independence. So I fought for that particular thing first for myself. Then I thought, like, why not others? Even others have a right to vote. So I started making representations to ECI and local bodies, and some changes started gradually taking part.
Many people think about accessibility only about building ramps. What does true accessibility mean to you?
Yeah. So here the biggest challenge comes. Okay. So implementing authority, the so called lawmakers, think accessibility is only a ramp. Okay, to some extent I would say yes, correct, but what ramp? Okay, the ramp should have proper gradient. If the height is say 1 feet, the length of the ramp should be 12 feet. Now to make people understand, there are 21 types of disability recognized by the law. Every disability has a different need. For example, person with visual impairment, he does not have vision, so the banners, the signages are not accessible to him, correct? So in that situation, people need to understand that there should be audio related to the signages or the message that you want to pass on to someone else. Goa has spent lot of money on creating awareness, but I find even today the TV channels are not accessible to persons with hearing impairment, because they are totally dependent on sign language, correct? So unless and until they are not sign language accessible, the news channel, the announcement, the warnings, rain warnings or heat warnings, whatever, is not accessible to people with hearing impairment. Okay, so all these things has to be changed, from academics to the courts, judiciary, everything needs to be changed and everything needs to be made accessible. So I would say a lot of things has to be done, and one or two people cannot do things, all the things. So many people should join to make this accessibility. The awareness needs to be created, a constant awareness needs to be created.
You strongly support inclusive education. Why is it important for children to study in mainstream schools?
Yes, for some people inclusive education may not be possible, but not for everyone. That people with disability may have deformity in particular arm, eyes, hearing, but their mind works fine. Okay, so having said that, if you reject them and say like, you have to go, only a wheelchair user is told your place is not here, we have no facilities for you here, so you have to go to the special school, which is incorrect, which is not correct at all. If one person is there, you have to make him all the arrangement. So inclusion also should happen. Inclusive means what? The every corner of that every particular facility of that education should be accessible to all the persons with disability, and inclusive education is the only option to encourage people or make them understand that there is a world beyond special. So inclusive education is my strong point, and I would say, without inclusive education, nothing is possible.
You have conducted more than 50 workshops for the police, for airport staff and others. What is the biggest misunderstanding that people have about disability, and how do you change their mindset when you do your workshops?
In my session, we always, there are other members also in the session, we always ensure that we make them feel how the disability looks like we will make them sit on the wheelchair and experience the wheelchair life, ask them to go out of the room, okay, how difficult it is, even if you have a small edge on the ground, okay, to access that particular thing. Visual impaired people, how they will find a place without help or with help, do they need support? But many people, again, when we go to airport, I have observed that they think any disability means wheelchair. Even a person with hearing impaired, if he asks for any assistant, they will say ask them to sit on the wheelchair. Visually impaired are always been done that. Okay, they are bodily fit, they don't need any wheelchair for their mobility, they only need assistance. People still don't understand.
You have written many letters to authorities for change, and sometimes you have got absolutely no response. What keeps you going?
It is the awareness. When I think about, when I make representation, I always think, even if it is not been seen or heard or implemented, at least some awareness would be created to it. So my basic idea with the representations are creating awareness on rights, inclusion and empowerment of persons with disability.
Congratulations on the para civil service table tennis tournament that you participated in one recently. What does sports give you that nothing else can?
It gives me pleasure. Actually, my intention with sports is not winning medals, but physical fitness, mental fitness, okay, and encouraging people with and without disability. Okay, that is my main intention. And sports always gives you good health, mental strength, develops your leadership, okay, develop your confidence, and I think it always also enhances your ability at the workplace. It develops a brotherhood, it develops friendship, it is being social, okay. Otherwise person like me, only office, home, beyond that I have no life. So only sports and these other activities like folk art and all, I connect to many people.
Sports equipment can be very expensive. So what do you feel that needs to change, where everyone is given an equal chance to participate in sports?
To tell all the viewers, sports government complex in Goa, indoor stadium and swimming pools are free for persons with disability, and there are nominal fees for person without disability. Now I have seen in Goa hardly only one place is being used by people with disability is Kampal, which is close to my place, okay. So from many other places around Goa they come here to practice. Now they should first, before equipment is expensive, I do agree, but this facility is being made available to people with disability free of cost, and that to any time, almost any time, okay. Because here in Kampal I think from 10 to 4 o'clock indoor stadium remain closed, but for us it remains open. So equipment needs to be supported. It would be supported only when people themselves come out of their shell, comfort zone, okay, and try and use the facility that is been given by the government.
If you could change one thing in Goa to make it more inclusive, what would that be?
Things cannot change overnight. It is a gradual process, always. But I would say, if I have to make changes, I have to change the attitude of the people, okay. So people with disability are not only for mercy, pity, but they need to be empowered, okay. People should think beyond the government schemes. People should think always the disability is not just like giving something at home, let them sit at home, be in their house, okay. They should actually come out of their houses and do whatever they want, like job, education, sports, and people should encourage them, their family members should encourage them, their friends should encourage them. Like for example, civil service tournament, there are very few people who are joining civil service tournament, despite it a special category is being included here, okay. And the Directorate of Sports and Youth Affairs has even included subcategory in it, like standing table tennis, wheelchair table tennis, okay. In badminton, visually impaired category was entirely different, hearing impaired category was entirely different, men, women, separate categories. So many things have been done by the government. Why we are not taking advantage of it, okay. So we have to change our mindset on the first place. People with disability should also change their mindset. Now these civil service tournament are held for government employees. All government employees who, especially those with disability, are empowered. They can easily come here, but they still have a kind of stigma in their mind. Okay, what we are going to do, how we are going to do, but at least come and see. Nobody is forcing you to come, or nobody is forcing you to play or take up some activity, but it should be within yourself that you should do kind of thing. Whatever interest that you have to come out and do it yourself. Only then it will work.
Change takes time, as you mentioned, and it can be discouraging also at times. So what keeps you hopeful and motivated to fight for this cause every day?
Motivations is what challenges that I have faced. Okay, so every place wherever I go, I myself first of all find difficulties in approaching or visiting certain place, and at least I am good enough to do it because I am little fit comparatively, but people with severe disability may find it more difficult. Okay, so I always keep a vision that some days more changes will come, more people will join, more encouragement will happen. Okay, and that's why I keep on doing whatever I do in my life. And yes, first of all, everybody should fight and stand for their own self first, then for others. Okay, so whenever I find any difficulty, I imagine myself putting in that particular place. Okay, so that is my encouragement. Like, I know others will definitely face more complex difficulty than me.
What advice would you like to give someone who wants to be an advocate for change?
Stand for yourself first. Okay, and things will automatically happen. And there are authorities, there are commissions to help people with disability, and they are being formed by the government, and the government, when government has formed, they are for you to utilize those facilities. Okay, and you have to, when you are successful in dealing with your issues, you should also see that you help someone else if they find it difficulties anyway.
Thank you so much. This has been such an inspiring talk, and there's so much of information that you gave in these few minutes to us and to our viewers. So I really want to thank you for that, and we all need to kind of be as motivated as you to bring about that change.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling me.
Thank you for joining us for this powerful conversation. Vishant's story reminds us that while the journey towards true inclusion is long, it is paved by those with the stamina to keep writing that next letter and the heart to keep performing on their own terms. Whether it is through his work on the Purple Fest, his dedication to disability sports, or his daily advocacy, Vishant has shown us that ability is defined by action, not limitation. We hope his journey inspires you to look at our community and your own potential with fresh eyes. Keep championing inclusion, keep raising your voice, and we look forward to seeing you in our next episode of Purple Moments as we continue to share stories that shape a more accessible future for all.